So there you see, along with Hazard, Luka Jovic will reinforce the attack. Eder Militao coming over from Porto, Ferland Mendy of Lyon to reinforce the defense. But what about the players that have to move out of Madrid? For some more on that, we bring in Sid Lowe. Sid, we know situations like James and Gareth Bale are very tricky. What's the latest out of Real Madrid on how they're planning to offload these players?
Well, I think in a way the best way to start this is to talk about the fact that we're still in June. You know, there are 2.5 months to go in the transfer window. They know that they have really significant difficulties with Gareth Bale. That Bale is saying that he's not planning to go anywhere, that he doesn't want to leave, that he's going to stay, and that he's not going to give up any of that salary, which is in the region of 17 million euros a year after tax. In other words, that costs Real Madrid not far off 40 million euros a year. And Real Madrid know this is difficult, but they also know that there is time. Now, this spending that they've done very early is partly because, of course, Zidane wanted these players in early. But it's also with the recognition, or the idea at least, that they will recuperate significant amounts of money from sales. Now, obviously, you've mentioned James and Gareth Bale as theoretically the players that would generate the most money, but you've also got to look at people like Llorente, Ceballos, Keylor Navas. I wouldn't be at all surprised if maybe one or two other slightly bigger players, you know, if an offer came in for someone like Luka Modric, I wouldn't be massively surprised if they at least listened to it. Real Madrid know they need to recover money, not least because Zidane at least would like this to continue. He would like a couple more players. Everybody knows, it's pretty much an open secret now that he would very much like them to get Mbappe. I think realism suggests that just doesn't happen. Everybody knows that he would very much like to get Pogba. Realism suggests that probably doesn't happen, but maybe it's not quite as downright impossible. But of course, for Madrid to do that, they will need to generate money, and they know this is going to be incredibly difficult to do.
Guys, based on the list of players that we know are coming in and the list of players that we know are coming out, here's another prospective 11 for Real Madrid, and there you see the bench as well. Thinking about that squad, Alejandro, knowing that Real Madrid's goals are always to win, if not compete for the Champions League at least, is this squad good enough to compete for next year's Champions League?
That squad, as we are putting out there on the screen, it is the same one that was about to play at the beginning of last season, except Eden Hazard. So if we're suggesting that Eden Hazard is going to make that big of a difference, then perhaps they'll compete. I think the changes need to continue to happen for Real Madrid. And I think you need the very best of Toni Kroos and Luka Modric and Casemiro himself, who at the end of the season looked tired. This whole team, to be quite honest with you, looked very tired from the beginning of the season till the end of the season. The highlight of this team was Karim Benzema, and that was about it. You look at the group, as we just put there, if you don't add anything else to it, it is exactly the same story that we just had, other than Eden Hazard. He's going to make a difference, but not that kind of a difference. Not 20 points of a difference. I don't see that happening. So I think there are pieces that need to be added to this team, not only the starting 11, but I also think in terms of the depth. As for the decisions that they need to make for players that need to be on the way out, they need to make those decisions sooner rather than later. The problem is, other teams around the world also know this, and so they're going to use that to their advantage.
I think potentially that team is good enough, but that's taking a lot of assumptions into consideration, particularly with everybody else who'll be competing in the Champions League. But when you look at this Real Madrid team, or that team, and you expect Vinicius Jr. to be at least a little bit better than he was, and he was very good last season, but more impactful. Now all of a sudden, you've got a real threat from both wings, which I don't think Real Madrid had at any point during the course of last season. Again, as good as Vinicius was, I think he showed a little bit of an experience. Maybe he gets better with that. Also, with no World Cup and no major international tournaments this summer, you were hoping for a lot better from both Kroos and Modric. We have to see with Casemiro, with Brazil competing. And the back four, which I still think needs a lot of work, maybe holds up. Again, that's taking a lot of considerations into place here. If I'm Zinedine Zidane, no, I'm not thoroughly happy with how things sit, but I'm engaging what everybody else is doing and know that I'm not in that bad a starting point.
That back line was all over the place last season. I mean all over the place. So a year later, we are hoping that Marcelo is going to defend. Good luck with that. That's not happening. And so there are changes to be made still in this team if you want to compete at the very highest level. And that's exactly where Real Madrid think that they belong.
For more, sign up now for ESPN Plus.